Difficult women. Oh, hello and welcome to the Difficult Women Podcast.
I am one of your hosts, Marie.
And I'm the other host, Katy. I don't know if I'm ever going to figure out what I feel comfortable with that.
When our powers combine, you get difficult women / reformed whores.
Amazing.
All the above. Well, we are so excited today. We're just going to cut to the chase because we have this incredible guest. We've been trying to get her for months now, but she had a baby during the pandemic, so she's been very busy. But she is one of our dear friends we met a long time ago in the comedy scene in New York City. She's a stand-up comic. She's been on Conan. She is an incredible writer. She was published in The New Yorker just a couple months ago. She's an actress, like I said, a mother, a wife, all the above. Ladies and gentlemen, Giulia Rozzi.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome.
Our listeners probably already know you because you're so famous and you've been on Conan and you're amazing.
Nobody knows me.
They certainly do. You're a writer, you're a comedian, but we really want to lean into you being a comedian because you've been a comic. We met you in comedy. That's how Strip Stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you've been doing it since you were a teenager?
No.
Oh, I thought you were at the Comedy Store, like super young.
I was 21.
That's young. So
that's almost teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like my first life in comedy.
But you're from Boston. You started in Boston.
No, I started in
Jesus,
LA.
I'm getting this all wrong. Okay.
No, why would you know? Why would anyone write this down? I can't even keep track. I did it like a couple times when I was in college in Ithaca.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I did my first like legit open mic in Boston when I was visiting, but then I ended up in LA the first time I lived here and was became a regular at the Comedy Store really fast. Like I didn't even want to be a stand-up. That was not my plan at all. It just sort of happened. I got passed to the Comedy Store. I was like, this is a big opportunity. And then I kind of like got thrown in the water without any swim lessons or like practice, and it was really overwhelming. That's why I like quit so many times because I was like, did I choose this? And so yeah, it's been a journey. And then I was in LA for like almost 4 years, and then I was in New York for like off and on for 10, 11, and then now I'm back in LA, and I don't know.
And before the pandemic happened, you had done Conan, right?
I did. I've gone in waves with stand-up, and maybe people can relate with whatever. I don't know how other careers are, but with stand-up specifically, it comes in waves for me. Like I'm like super into it for a while, and then it kind of lessens in my life, and I'm like, oh, I'm done with it, and then it comes back, and so I don't really know what that means. But the 2 years before the pandemic, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to see what it's like to give it 100%. Cause I've always kind of done like 20 things at once. It was really great because I wanted to do late night. I wanted to do it for a while, but I think I resisted the process. And like, I don't want to keep taping myself and edit it. Like, because to me, stand up is like, I'm just, I've got jokes planned, but it's an organic conversation. Like I'm so loosey with it that to do that felt, I don't know. I just was like, I didn't want to do it. And then I just did the work and I did Conan, and then the pandemic happened a few months later, and then Conan's show ended. And I was like, great. If that, I don't know what the future holds, but if that was my last hurrah for a bit, or I don't know, that's cool.
I will say it's a good way to start the pandemic or like go out or whatever, because that's it's a good thing. And then were you planning on like going on a lot of tours and stuff to promote that
after Conan? Yeah. I mean, because of Conan, I don't even know how much that helps, to be honest. It was really interesting because like I got, some like nice emails from people afterwards being like, congrats. Like this one person was like, oh man, like you must be getting bombarded with bookings now. And I was like, honestly, it's really same.
Yeah.
No one, there's 1 there's 1,000 of us,
Yeah.
you know, it's not the same. I mean, not to diminish it. Like, it was a personal goal for me. And I think it's definitely a checklist thing of, like, you know, stand-up comedy goals. And it was one of the best entertainment experiences of my life for many reasons. But as far as, like, you get discovered, you do late night, now you are a famous comedian, like, that ended, I don't know, 10, 20 years. I mean, ever since the internet, I feel like,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to do this anymore.
There's like a million comedians on TikTok now. It's fine.
Yeah, you just have to be a comedian, you just have to put it in your bio, and then you are one. So, but it was really interesting because I was pregnant on Conan, but I didn't know I was pregnant yet.
Oh.
And I did these I used to do this joke about baby wipes, and, like, that was my form of birth control. And I name the babies that get wiped off of me, and one of them is my daughter's name.
Oh my God.
Because it was like the baby name I wanted. And then a week later, I found out I was pregnant. And so I was pregnant on Conan. And that was actually great timing too, because I knew that I would probably I'm definitely going out less at night as pandemic, and also with a baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to say, like, your Conan set, your jokes, like your cancel text joke. I was like, did you cause the pandemic, Julia?
I know. It was I mean, it's weird because my Conan set was about me getting pregnant, and then I did. And it was about how I wanted all plans to end, and I hate leaving my house, and I just want to wear sweatpants on the couch. And then it was like, yikes, sorry. It's all my fault.
It's all your fault.
Yeah.
Well, your story has always been just so fascinating to us because we met you in New York. You were doing a storytelling show at UCB called Strip Stories. I believe at the time you were dating a bodybuilder. I remember talking. That's my favorite part of you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But you were dating this guy. But I remember we just talked so much about relationship advice because you had gone through a divorce, and then you had a solo show called Bad Bride.
Bad
Bride. And
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I just always like look to you for dating advice because also now, like, you appear, at least on social media, who knows, but like you have it all, Julia. You know, you're married to an incredible man, you have a baby, you have a dog, and you also have this like self-help podcast. So what I'm asking now is how can you help get
it's so funny though, but you have to keep in mind that, like, yes, I will. Yeah, I am in a very good like, I love my family. I'm the most of everything in my life right now. I'm the most proud of the family unit I've created. And that's been a huge growth thing for me because so much of my confidence and self-worth has always come from career. And it's really nice to, I don't know, it's just my perspective is, and I do think the pandemic is hugely to give thanks to in that, because I think it's shifted a lot of people's perspective on like what matters. That's not to say I don't want to work anymore, but I definitely have a different view of the kind of work I want to do, and that it doesn't like, it's not my only thing that defines me and yada, yada, yada. But my point is that yes, you're correct. I'm happy now. But when you met me and I was at the bodybuilder, I was giving out great advice, but I was not in it. That was a terrible relationship.
But you also had said you weren't, I think if I remember this correctly, but you never wanted to get married again, like, or you didn't want to have kids. I mean, it was just, you were really...
I mean, it was, and I shouldn't say terrible. I actually don't think that's fair, because there was, with every person I've been involved with, there's always some sort of care or love there. It just...
I also, if I remember correctly, not to like tell you your own story, but
please.
I also feel like it was exactly what you needed at that particular time in your life. Yes.
I believe a lot in messengers. Very much so. I mean, I feel this way about, all aspects of life. Like, I think it can happen in friendships. It can happen in jobs. I think that things come into your life often, not always. Sometimes things just come in your life and they're shit, but there's no deep meaning. But I think, I can look back on every person that I've dated, hooked up with, married, divorced, whatever. And I understand why they were in my life at that time, even if it was for 10 years or 2 days. Like I can look back and I think I think I really lucked out that my most single period of my life was at 35 because I just was really in it for the lesson, you know, and to learn and be like, what do I actually want? So I am grateful for that boyfriend that I had when I met you guys, because I learned a lot.
Protein shakes and all that. Yeah. So funny.
Well, you are something of a Renaissance woman, because you had your one woman show, you've done stand up, you've did the storytelling, you were very active in storytelling. I think mostly active in storytelling when we met, and then went back into another stand up phase maybe. And now you have you've had a couple podcasts. You had a podcast with your now husband. And then now you have another podcast that you've been hosting. Was that since the pandemic?
Yes. So I used to host a show called Hopefully We Don't Break Up with my now husband, Will. And that, if anyone wants relationship advice, honestly, listen to that, because it was us talking to other couples and we didn't give anyone advice. It was just us learning about how different couples exist and their dynamic. And some of them have since split. But it was, you know, that show got me really comfortable with the idea of maybe having a child, because we interviewed a lot of people with kids, without kids. It was really, I think I loved that show because it really showed me that there's no rules to relationships. Like all those, like, these are red flags, do this, don't sleep with someone the first time, sleep with them, like all that shit. It's all, you can't one size fits all any of that. So So we ended that podcast after 100 episodes just because we kind of just didn't want, I sort of felt like the project was taking over too much of our relationship. And we wanted to be like, wait, we need to like focus on our off-pod relationship. And then I had the idea to do a podcast alone, but I was scared just because, I don't know, I like having co-host, and as you know, with pods or anything you put online, you're like, is anyone even listening? Like, am I adding to the pile of the dumpster that is there's just so much content, you know? So, but then I just finally did it during the pandemic, and it's called Should I Get Bangs? And it's me talking, it's been a lot of comedians, but I'm starting to book non-comics too, about breakdowns and breakthroughs. So it ends up being, that's really just like a entryway into a deeper conversation about mental health and, you know, keeping your cool and feelings and all that stuff. But yeah, it's been really fun.
Have you had like a major breakdown in your life, or a couple
in my life? Oh my God. I mean, why do you think I started the pod? Mostly so I could tell so many, especially before I started taking meds. I mean, yeah, like I've cried in every public park in below 72nd Street in Manhattan for sure. I've cried in every rental car I've ever rented when I was in Los Angeles visiting. I mean, buses, trains, you know, I've those are like the minis, but like the real meltdowns. Yeah, I've had like a good, well, you know, it's hard. It's like, what do you consider a meltdown? Because I also consider it anything from, you know, yelling at customer service when they really didn't deserve it because you just needed to like flip out on someone, to contemplating suicide. I mean, there's like a huge spectrum there. So I hope that I'm doing a good job of not minimizing anyone's situation by like having somebody tell a story about getting a bad haircut after a breakup, you know, but it has run the gamut all the way to, you know, people talking about suicidal ideations and, you know, alcohol abuse and all that kind of stuff. So, but we always make it funny because I mean, sorry to say, but suicide, if you've ever thought about it, you know that it's hilarious.
Love it.
If you've ever really thought about killing yourself and you haven't done it, you got to laugh at it when you feel better.
That's true. Well, that is very true.
Yes.
Yes. Well, you say that you are, you know, a comedian, obviously, but then a self-help expert.
I've never called myself a self-help expert.
You said it on the Joe Firestone podcast, the episode. That's where I got it.
I said I was an expert.
Or like, well, you're joking, obviously.
Oh, I said that I've been a self-help addict in the past.
Maybe I heard wrong.
Yeah.
I apologize. You would never say expert.
I actually know, because expert to me, I mean, this is my own bullshit, but like people used to call me a relationship expert when I had the podcast. And I'm like, that's just like putting comedian in your bio.
Right.
Like, when you go on Instagram and they're like, I'm a spiritual manifestation expert. And you're like, all you're doing is selling smoothies, like what, take off your big hat. What are your credentials? Anyway, so no, I wouldn't say I'm an expert. I don't know what I'm an expert in. I guess I'm just an expert in me, but I have gone through phases in my life where I overindulged in self-help to a point where it was like, I need to stop thinking there's something so wrong with me. Like,
oh, interesting.
What was like because I love like self-help shit. I just like love it. I love all of it. I've gone through so many phases of like different books and crazy things. But like, what's one of the craziest books that you were like, yes, for like a hot second?
I don't know if any of them have been too, okay, well, most of the books I've read, I like, I mean, with the exception of like, The Secret, which like in retrospect, you're like, you can't just, you do have to leave your house. Like when I read The Secret, I was like, I guess I'm just going to cancel all my shows and smoke weed and stay home, and that doesn't work. But I don't know if I've read any crazy books, but some of my favorite, I love Untethered Soul. I don't know if you've read
is that the one with the horse on the cover?
I think, horse like running.
My
through
mother
a field.
bought me that for Christmas one year. I have to read that. Wow. I gotta read that one. I haven't. So
I haven't read it. I read it during that when I was single year, and it did make me so sad, but in like a good way. But I will say the like craziest self-help thing I've done, and I'm embarrassed of it because I thought that I was like not done with self-help. Like I still, like I love listening to like Tara Brach, who I consider more so spirituality and Buddhism than self-help. I think there's like I think the self-help I don't really like is the stuff that's like, read this book and it will change your life, guaranteed. It's like, it kind of goes back to the relationship advice. It's like, but this book might not change my life. Like you can't promise me that, right? So when I first moved to LA 3 or 4 years ago, I don't know what time is, a friend of mine was like, you've got to check out this manifestation coach online. And I was like, okay. And she wears, like, white linen, and she talks like this. All of her videos are, in front of, it looks like a staged real estate house, just very simple. And she, I think it was like $75, and I paid for like one of her hypnosis sort of talks. I don't know. And I thought I was really into it for like a week. And then it felt, I don't know, kind of just had like a very privileged vibe to it of like, there's no reason why you can't be a millionaire. I'm like, actually, like there are. And I also like her journey to it, not to discount anyone's journey, but like, it was literally like, I was, sitting in my garden and I realized one day I didn't want to be an actress anymore. And so I found manifestation. Right. Like it was like, there wasn't like, it wasn't like my husband left me. I was in a fire, even like, I broke my ankle, like even something, it was nothing. So that's the one. I paid for two. I spent $150 on this woman. And then I was like, wow, I'm not going to manifest any money if I keep doing this.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I think that the key though to that stuff is it's like what you were saying earlier, Giulia. It's like, it can't just be that you sit and smoke weed and wait for things to come to you. Yeah. That's the part that I think that people like can get caught up. So like, even like this lady you're talking about, she's like, you're going to be like a millionaire. It's like, sure, that could happen. But like, what are the steps that I'm going to have to do to get there? And you can have belief in yourself. And like, definitely for me, it's like, the positive self-talk has been like really a big change. Oh, yeah. But like all that stuff is like good for mental health, period. No matter.
Yeah. Like I am very much into manifestation. My husband and I own too many crystals.
Love the crystals. Like I love crystals.
It's a California, it's a requirement. You get off the plane at LAX, they hand you a crystal. They're like, welcome. But I more so mean, I guess what I struggle with is the business of manifestation. And like, don't get me wrong. Okay, so I do Kundalini yoga. And I don't know if you know, it's like, it's a lot of breath work. It's like, it's pretty out there the first time you do it, but I love it. I've been doing it for almost 20 years. And it's, and I remember asking a teacher of mine, like many years ago, I was like, if this is so positive, like, why aren't classes free? That, cause like I have a lot of, I don't know. I just don't have a very good business brain. In my mind, like everything that's positive is free. and it's like, well, but it's actually a spiritual act to pay someone for their service because it's like you're honoring them, the teacher. This was like many years ago where like this was explained to me. So don't get me wrong. Like I get why an author should be paid, an artist should be paid, a coach should be paid. So I don't have a problem with people being paid to help someone manifest or write a self-help book. It's like the batshit crazy, unregulated world of the internet where everyone is now selling. It just feels very like that world is what has turned me off a little bit to even the word manifestation. Because I do feel like a lot of times it's like a girl in a bikini thong. Do you follow girls with irrelevant captions?
No, but it sounds like you should.
Oh, it's so good. It's like a girl like looking over her thong bikini, like grabbing her breasts, like eating an ice cream cone, being like, if you dream it, you can be it, and you're like,
what?
What? Why? Like, this is just getting, and I guess she's right, because she probably dreamed of money and now she's getting it through brand sponsorships. So I guess I'm the asshole here, to be completely honest. But
no, but
I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And I think that also, like, as someone who has done extremely deep dark dives into the internet world of like that manifestation business model thing, there is this like really, it's one thing to like read a thing on Instagram or buy a book or whatever. It's another to like, you'll see people that are like, they clearly don't know what they're talking about, but they know they can take money from people. And they know they can take money from desperate people. So it is like one of those things you have to be careful, like, it's like preying on weak people that are at their, in the most need. So that can be problematic. But I do like fall asleep to like Neville Goddard videos like every single night though. Just like,
oh, I don't know who Neville Goddard is.
He's like super duper manifestation man where he he like when was it? I mean, it was like the 1930s or something. And he has this weird, from like the Bahamas, and he has this weird like Bahamian British accent, colonial type thing. And then he talks, his big thing is to prove that you can manifest, he says, try not to manifest a ladder in the next 2 weeks. Just try, if you really like think about a ladder every single night before you go to bed, and then really, really, really try not to manifest one. And he's like, and you'll manifest a ladder. And he's like, and then come back and then you'll learn some more things from me. And so people talk about how like they didn't want to manifest the ladder. They're like, this guy's all phony. And then they like somehow found themselves in some situation that they never would normally have been in. And now they're like climbing a ladder and they're like, oh, he got me. So
yeah, because it's what you think, what you put your energy
yeah,
toward, you attract.
Yeah.
Well, but it's, I mean, like the core of manifestation, like you said earlier, is it's like believing you deserve something. So that part makes total sense. So like if you don't believe you're deserving of a good partner, right? And you're sitting there going, oh, I wish I could get a great husband, but you actually don't believe you deserve it. Like that insecure, low confidence vibe is going to not be magnetic.
Absolutely.
So like, so I 100% know that I manifested a lot of the good things I have right now. Like, I mean, if you want to hear a real trippy out there story of manifestation that has to do with Conan, I can tell you that.
Yes. Love this stuff.
So I got approved to do it in January of 2019. And then that was it. Like I got approved, but I didn't have like a date. my rep was reaching out to follow up. No one was responding. I had already bought my outfit because I was so excited and I knew exactly what I wanted to wear. It was a green jumpsuit. And I like rush ordered it, you know, like, cause I didn't know the process. Right. And outfit was like almost, I mean, maybe even more so important than the jokes, which, you know,
you look fabulous, by the way.
Thank you. But I should put more focus on the jokes. And so I kind of, I wasn't like in the best headspace at that time too. I was feeling, I had gone off my medication. I'm on Zoloft, not like, you know, just, I wasn't in therapy. I don't know. I just wasn't doing the work or taking the care that I normally had. And I was kind of getting in that like cycle of like, poor me. And I feel like that's partially why they didn't respond. Not that they knew, but I don't think my vibe was, maybe I would have like melted down. I don't know. Right. Maybe because it is like a really nerve-wracking experience. So cut to, I every time I'd go in my closet, I'd see the jumpsuit and it progressively got further and further shoved in the back of my closet. And like, then I started getting mad. I was like, fuck you, jumpsuit. Fuck this shit. Like I was just, I don't know, bad energy. So then later in the year, I did a lot of work. I started seeing a therapist. I had like a breakdown when I was in DC on the road doing a show. I didn't want to leave my hotel room and do the shows. I was just like so fucking sad and just like in a hole. And then I decided that time in DC, I was like, okay, I need to go and see a psychiatrist and have a psychiatrist say to me, you are clinically depressed and anxious. Cause I've always had like a therapist and then like my physician give me Medicaid and like, it's always, and then I'm like, oh, well, I'll just smoke weed and see if that, like, it's kind of just been a hodgepodge. And there was something in my brain that was like, well, if I go see a psychiatrist and they can just like, tell me what I already know and tell me I should stick with the Zoloft, then I don't know, it'll kind of like confirm it for me or like make me, I don't know what it was, but I just decided that's what I needed to do. And I think a few weeks before this occurred, I had made a vision board for the first time in my life. I had always been about to, but then didn't. And on the vision board, I put Conan amongst a bunch of other things, and I put it in my drawer and I'd look at it occasionally, but not that often. And then, so I had this experience in DC, and then I got back to Los Angeles and I made an appointment with a psychiatrist. Oh, I'm sorry. On the flight from DC to Los Angeles, I listened to a podcast and Conan happened to be on it talking about being on medication. And I didn't know that Conan was on medication. And he talked very openly about his own mental health. I like cried on the plane listening to it. I forgave Conan for not getting that. It's not him. Do you know what I mean? But like,
but that energy you had to like release that like negative shit you had around it.
Well, because it wasn't about doing the show. Like it's a show. It was about my self-worth was so tied into this, like, I felt like I was being ignored. Like I wasn't cool and like just what's wrong with me? Like all that fucking bullshit, right? That I think gets exacerbated by this business, unfortunately. And so I get back, I'm unpacking, you know, I see the jumpsuit and I was like, you know what, let me try it on and see if it still fits. So it fit. And I like literally looked in the mirror and I was like, you know what, Giulia, you might not wear this on Conan, but you're going to wear this someplace fabulous. And you might not know where that is yet, but like everything's okay. And I put the jumpsuit back in the front. And I go to my psychiatrist appointment and, you know, she confirmed everything I kind of already knew. And then at my second appointment with her, I'm leaving her office and I get a call at 8 p.m. at night from the booker of Conan. He was like, hey, crazy offer, but do you want to do the show tomorrow? And I was like, and without even thinking, I go, yeah, okay, just give me a second to think about it. I go, I got to be honest with you though. I'm like, I never thought I was going to hear from you again. I was actually really mad. Like, I was like, I felt really, he's like, no, it's just like, you know, people get moved around and then like someone's in, like, I mean, we all know how this business works. Like it's so few things are personal. And people don't just like say, you're great just to make you feel better. They just like tell you to fuck off, you know, like no one's anyways. So I called my husband and he happened to be with another comedian friend of ours, Jordan and Temple. And I was like, hey, I just got this call. Should I do it? And they were both like, yes. And I'm like, yeah, but I haven't practiced. And they were like, you know, you're fine. And what's also interesting about that is like, I said to you guys, the whole reason why I resisted that whole process was because I hated the whole like practicing and making tapes and like, I just do better when I flow. So I said, yes. I slipped onto one show that night just to like run it. I didn't even do that well. It just felt good to come out of my mouth. I went and did the show. And then afterwards, when like, you know, they're Conan's shaking your hand to say like, great job or whatever. I said to him, I go, hey, I just want to let you, I'm going to cry. I was like, I just want to let you know, I was like in a real hole like a month ago. And I knew I needed to like do a different approach. And I listened to that podcast with you. And it was like the final push that I needed to take action. So like, I'm like on medication again. I'm like with a psychiatrist, like, so thank you. And he like was like, thank you so much for telling. It was like this beautiful moment. And I was like, yeah, that's how I want my TV moment to go. Where it's like, of course, my TV moment is me pulling the host aside and being like, I just want to let you know, like my mental health, you know, like, but so that to me, so that's why that experience was so special. It was like special. It wasn't just about comedy. Cause like I've had cool things happen in comedy and I've had shitty things happen in comedy, but this was more about like my frame of mind and my mental place and all this stuff. And so, yeah.
That's the kind of manifestation though that I believe in with every ounce of my being, which is that like, for whatever reason, the universe was like, wait. I sound like that guy across the street, but like, you know, because it's like, if you, I was like, I've heard that before. Oh, right. But it's because it was, like you said, it was about more than the comedy. You needed to like be in the place that you were in to have that full experience. And like, this is where I get hippy dippy because I'm like, there is like a grander picture to a lot of this stuff. And I believe in like the energies and we're all one thing anyway, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a reason why this like dance had worked out the way that it did. And I think that this happens all the time with relationships too, right? Where people are like, oh, they're single forever and they can't date a good person. And once they like let it go and start loving themselves, they've like reframed their energy and their place of their peace of mind, their place. And then they can really bring in someone that's a kind, loving partner and not, you know, a narcissistic piece of shit. Like I usually drag it, whatever. But
I've had 3 friends over the last, I don't know, 8 years. I've watched them be like, I am done dating. I've had it. I am at peace with the fact that I'm going to be single forever. All 3 of them had a very random, like, and then this guy who I haven't spoken to in this many years, or like this person, like out of the blue. And, you know, I always try to be careful with those stories because, and again, maybe this is where I struggle sometimes with stuff. I don't like it when those stories are told like, so don't you worry. Just buy this book, read these things, and this will definitely happen to you. I'm like, no, you don't know. That's fortune teller shit, right? But I think what is true is sharing those stories and being like, I don't know what the result is going to be, but I am certain that if you learn to be kinder to yourself, good things will happen. It might not be the exact thing you were looking for. For me, it happened to be that Conan thing, but there was a million things I was trying to manifest. You know, like that just happened to be the one that worked out. If you saw the thing, you were like, well, you also wanted a huge house. And like that didn't, you know, well, actually, I mean, it's a rental, but you know,
No, totally.
I
think what you're saying too is dead on, which is that like, I think the other thing one starts to discover as they try to do more self-care, positive self-talk, you know, manifesting, but not because you're like, I need this thing, but because like, you know what, I'm just going to let go and let God, or however you want to say it, and like live my life and be happy with myself. I think one of the things that sometimes one learns is that the things that they thought they wanted so desperately, it's something else. You know, it's not what they thought they wanted. And you start to reframe. And like you said with your podcast with relationships, so if we were speaking about relationships look different. You know, different kinds of relationships look different. So if you've been thinking, oh, I need to get married by this age and have a baby by this age and all that, because why? You know, why are you thinking that? Is it because you want that? Or is it because your parents have been telling you that, or your sister's been telling that, or whatever? So I think that that's another place where you start to really like, and it's part of what therapy is just in general, just being able to like look at yourself and take some things apart and go like, what do I want? You know, why do I beat myself up so much? Why do I suffer with these thoughts that I may or may not need to be dealing with? We talked about this once on the pod, but I have this sort of thing where I used to be very like, you know, oh, you stupid cunt, why are you doing this? Like just to myself all the time, you know? And I started like just trying to get rid of that entirely. And now I'm like, it just comes totally second nature to me now. If I'm having a stressful moment or I'm not happy with something, I go, you're doing fine. You're doing fine, lovey. Just keep going, you know? Or do you want, what do you want? You want to take a little break? We can take a little break. What do you need to do, you know? And it's so helpful.
That whole notion of would you treat somebody else that
exactly.
way? I would never treat someone the way I treat myself sometimes, ever. I mean, when I think about what the most important things in my life right now, which are my husband and my child and my home and my family, like none of it looks the way I pictured it years ago, but I couldn't imagine anything else. It feels so, and when I say that, people are like, I don't mean to say like, I don't have disputes with my partner. I'm not stressed. I don't get sad still. I mean, like, I'm still a human being, but I did design, like my therapist says this to me all the time whenever I have, because I'm very, contentment is very uncomfortable to me, you know, even like being like, I'm happy, like, cause it's such a easy habit. And I think we're all trained this way through like being in a capitalist society, being women, like all that stuff. It's so comfortable to feel bad, you know, to be like, I'm not enough. Oh, I should be depressed about that. Like, you know, I mean, I know it's a chemical thing too, but I'm saying like, it's very easy to sit in misery and complain. And so like, sometimes I'm in therapy and I'm like, yeah, it's like really like, I don't know. Like sometimes I just want to like spend the day with my daughter and it's like really, I don't know, just like makes me really happy. I mean, like, I'm just like really lucky. And she's like, well, no, you're not, you are lucky. Like you should be great, but you you worked on yourself, you chose your partner, you are the kind of parent you want. Like you forget to give yourself, I think for me, it's been really easy for me to only know to give myself credit when it's something career-wise, because that's something I can post and be like, look what I did. And people are like, you go girl boss, you know, and you're like, yeah. And like, that's like what you're supposed to celebrate. But then when you really step back, I'm like, well, no, but the things that like young me would really be blown away by is the fact that I don't know, I get to wake up every morning and like do whatever I want and dress how I want. And I have these cool friends and like, just all like I have a hammock, like, you know, like that kind of stuff. Like the career stuff is amazing, but I don't know, people can, if you really want something in your career, you can get it. You know, like that's, I don't really know if that's really what I wanted to say. Like, not that you can get it, but it's
something you can work on. Just that how I feel like I feel what you're saying, because I think also in the,
I'm not verbal. That's not what I wanted to say at the end, but I just mean like, what did I mean?
I think what you meant. Let me tell you what I think you meant. I think what you were partly what I am gathering, and I'm feeling a similar way, especially during the pandemic, you start to see this. It's just that simple feeling of like realizing what's really important here. Is this like and it's like the Conan story, honestly. It's like, yeah, you could have just done Conan months before and you could have been in a bad mind space and you could have just done it and checked it off your list. But for whatever reason, in your case, then you actually, what was important to you about the Conan thing? It wasn't necessarily doing the set. It was having the experience of the connection with another human being. And you know what I mean? Those were the things that were important.
And feeling like I deserved
and feeling
it.
And being prepared to deserve
I went there. Yeah, when I was there, I didn't do what I've done before, which is I was gracious, but I wasn't like, oh my, I can't believe you guys picked me. Just me, this piece of shit. Like, I was really nice to walk in and be like, hello, thank you for having me. You're not doing me a favor. We are working together. And that is such a different, and I don't have that all the time, but I'm trying to, like, you forget how often you're like, I remember someone talking about casting. an acting teacher was like, yeah, you're doing, if you're good, you're doing casting a favor. You're making their job easier instead of walking into like an audition room being like, did someone tell you did my mom tell you to call? You know, like that sort of like worthlessness that you were talking about with manifestation. Like that's what manifestation is just believing that you're worthy of whatever it is that could potentially bring you joy.
And I think also having trust in yourself or whatever it is you want to trust, but having some faith that things can work out. You know what I mean? Even if they don't in this immediate moment, it's like, I didn't get the thing I wanted right now. It's like, so what? So what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe you'll never get it. Maybe you will get it. But like the more you try to hang on to these, and that's how I feel about money generally too. Like when people get really intense about money, sometimes you can get it, you know, but at what cost? Like, are you getting it because you're not paying your employees? Are you getting it because you're like, there's abundance everywhere and I feel, you know, happy with my life and I enjoy my job and I'm enjoying every moment that comes up. And then sometimes I'm not happy, but that's okay. Cause then in those moments I can go, I need a nap. I'm going to take a nap, you know, or whatever it is you need.
Well, I listened to Matthew McConaughey's book on tape and he's all about the timing. It's a really good book. My
husband is obsessed with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, really?
Obsessed.
His book is so great. It really is trusting the timing. And then his big thing is green lights. But it's like your eyes have to be open and aware to trust the universe to see the green lights. And then to also understand that there's red lights and yellow lights. Very simple. Yeah. Very simple. But I think it's just such a beautiful thing. This morning I was at the grocery store and there's been crazy storms here in Nashville. It's raining again here and everyone's a little bit like, oh God, what's happening? And so I was at the grocery store and this man was checking me out. I was like, it's raining again, you know.
Wait, checking you out like
oh, I wish. No, just literally scanning my cat food. Just checking me out. But I made the like negative comment of like, oh, it's raining again. And he goes, ain't it beautiful? And I was like, wow, yes. And he was like, you got to change that perspective. And it made me remember, I have this quote and it hit me the other day because I have been struggling with negative thoughts. You know, I left New York. I'm here in Nashville now.
Are you happy there?
I am. I mean, I there's things like I'm wondering, you know, what's next sort of thing. But like some cool stuff's happening. So I have to just trust in the timing and stuff.
And are you in New York, Katy?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm still in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Okay.
But I was reading this thing on Third Eye Thoughts, but they posted, if you believe it will work out, you'll see opportunities. If you believe it won't, you'll see obstacles. It's like such a simple thing. But I like then quoted this to the guy today at the grocery store.
Let me read from my Instagram.
I kind of like, yeah. But then we both had just like a moment of like, you know, I was like, thank you. Yeah. I was like, thank you for reminding me this.
Yeah.
I've been like trying to shove down myself lately. Cause it's all in the frame of mind. It really truly is.
And you can, I mean, I think with the pandemic and I'm, you know, I don't know if you guys had this experience. I feel like a lot of people did. Like I practiced gratitude and, you know, I tried to stay positive and I did a lot of like, well, at least, you know, like I know my parents can't meet my kid, but like, at least I'm not homeschooling and at least I'm alive. And like, and then I think it's great to be grateful and positive, but I also think it's equally important to allow yourself time to be upset and grieve sometimes too, and know that it doesn't have to be so I think positivity is important, but I think also honoring how you feel is also important. So like, yeah, it's like everything. It's like a balance, right?
I think
like you don't want to be walking into the grocery store every time and complaining about something. Right. But you know, if you just experienced a job loss or like a breakup and you're like, fuck the rain, it's like, yeah, okay. You know, but if you're just like, fuck the rain every day because you're a miserable person, then I don't know.
It makes me think of the, I did not listen to the Matthew McConaughey book on tape yet, but I should. But when I think of,
I want to now.
Me too. When I hear red light, green light, yellow light, I think, I don't know if this is what he meant or not, but it feels like internally, right? So it's like, am I feeling like this is a good match? Am I feeling like resistance? Am I feeling like whatever? And I think that's where the work comes in and where we're not very good at this in the United States is like being in tune with how we feel and not being controlled by, oh, this commercial just said I should have a hamburger, so I guess that's what I feel like eating. It's like, well, is it though? Or
impulsive.
Yeah, the impulsive and also just like, I'm a man, I'm not supposed to cry. It's like, well, if you're feeling sad, it's just cry. Just let it out. It's okay.
I can embarrassingly admit, I've never admitted this, I think out loud. It's not that dramatic. But the amount of times that I think I've maybe like reached out to someone about years ago, like about a comedy opportunity that I didn't even pause to think about if I actually wanted it. I was reaching out because I saw somebody else post about it and I was like, well, why wasn't I asked? And it came from that like, impulsive, like ego bruise instead of like pausing and really thinking about why am I taking this action? And I'm really glad that I don't do that the way I used to, because it's like a gross energy for everyone involved, and then if God forbid the person says yes, and then you're like, wait, I didn't even want to. I mean, I think I even have done that with like friends in the past where I've been like, yeah, do you want to hang out? And then I'm like, wait, I only did that because I feel like I haven't reached out enough, or like I haven't gone out enough, like I was probably more when I was younger, but I do feel like it's like what you're saying about the commercial for the hamburger. Like you just, it's really about being in touch with yourself, but everything about the modern world is designed to make you escape yourself. I mean, we don't even have time for me to get into phones, but I think everyone is so sick of hearing me talk about, it's my number one fear with my child is the direct, like a lot of the other fears I had are gone now that she's here. But my number one fear is like, fuck, what the fuck is technology going to be like when she's older? Is she going to be friends with robots? Like,
I think so. Yeah. I think that's going to happen. No, I don't know. Well, so one crazy thing that we forgot to even state when we began is that this is our 99th episode for Difficult Women.
Congrats.
And congrats to you, because you're our first mother that we've had on.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, I know.
And 99 women?
Isn't that kind of?
We've had different, sometimes we have hosts. I mean, we have guests and sometimes we don't. And we've been trying to get moms on, but they're really busy. Surprise, surprise.
Yes, especially.
Pandemic is the time to get them.
But you gave birth during the pandemic. And
I did. I wore a mask.
Thinking about you. Yeah, we're just thinking about you this whole time. But also, now having a child within this beautiful world and worrying about robots and stuff.
It was the best and worst. Like, I think a lot of people probably feel that way about different things. So many people have they were blank during the pandemic. They were, they got married during the pandemic. They had a bit, there's all these different things that happen. I mean, it sucked in that, there was no one who could like come over when we got home from the hospital and like really help us. And I mean, my parents live across the country anyways, but not even like friends, because it was in July. It was the peak of people being terrified, and, being at the hospital, thank God my husband could come in with me, because I know people that couldn't have partners come in. And luckily that changed right when it was our turn. And, my family's finally going to meet her at 9 months. And, it's been like, thank God for FaceTime, but like that's getting exhausting, as we're all sort of a little screened out. But the positives, it was really funny because months before the pandemic, I don't know if it was before the pandemic started or before we knew it was going to like be this long. My sister and my mom were trying to figure out when to come out, because the plan was they were going to come out like a few days after I got home from the hospital. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I think I read this like Kundalini yoga book that was like, you should spend the first week alone, just you and your partner, if you're partnered, and your child, to really like bond as a unit. And then after a week, people can come stay and stuff. It's not like a hard, fast rule. It's just a suggestion. And I really loved that thought of like the three of us and the dog bonding. And then it was so funny because then I was like, again, I was like, oh no, did I manifest too much bonding time? Because then it turned into months.
Oh gosh.
But the positives have been like, neither of us have been able to go out to work. Any work we've had has been from home. We've mostly been full-time parents. You know, I'm not like, my ego isn't getting jealous of people that are out doing shows. Cause I mean, I fucking fall asleep at like 9:30 often, you know, like, I don't know, unless people will book me for like 6 p.m. spots. I might be calling it quits again for a bit. But yeah, it's, I mean, being there for her. So I don't even know what it would have been like to give birth at a quote unquote normal time. And I also don't know how I'm going to go back to like, I mean, I spend every day with her all day, you know? So yeah. And she's like a real happy, I think she's a happy baby because of it.
Well, that's really special. That, I mean, I think that is, I've known a couple of people that have had babies during this time, and it's everything you're saying is what I've heard too. It's just like you get extra time, you know, and that is so important. That is really what it's most important. I know somebody that this was during non-pandemic times. She was preparing to have her baby, and then the plan was like, we're gonna have the baby, and then as soon as I can get him into daycare, I'm gonna go back to work. And I was like, I don't think you're gonna want to do that. And the minute that she had the baby, she was like, what was I thinking? Like, I don't want to have to go back to work if I can ever help it, because you want to be with your baby. And that's the tragedy of, I was going to say the tragedy of American, like,
maternity leave. I mean, this was probably, for some people, this was probably the best maternity leave they could have imagined having. So,
and on the episode of Should I Cut My Bangs podcast, with Aparna Nancherla, she said something that was like, I hadn't really said it out loud or thought of it in a full thought, but she said it exactly right, which is like, she's having anxiety about the ending of the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
And
100%.
Do you have like any, I mean, or maybe, and it's absolutely fine if you're like, I have no idea, but do you have thoughts of like what that's going to look like for you guys, or in your maybe career or not for now, or what are you thinking?
I mean, so I'm going to finally see my family in April, and it's honestly been hard for me to think of like, until my family and my husband's parents and my parents meet our child, like I can't even think of anything else. It's like, I'm at peace with it, but like I'm going to lose my mind when it happens, you know? So once that happens, I think I can get more clarity on what the rest of my life looks like. But you know, I don't know. I've been, what has been nice during the pandemic is a couple things. Like, I feel like I was able to reconnect with some hobbies, and I feel that often everything I've done over the last like 15, 18 years or whatever, I've always been like, no, how do I make this a business? Is this my new thing? You know? And I'm like, no, I can just like write a poem or cook a meal because I feel like it. So that's been nice. So I would like that to carry with me after the pandemic. I feel like my time, I'm really, conscious of how I use it. So like, and that's partially also having a child. So like when I have my free time, when my husband takes my child, and, you know, I have 2 hours or whatever to write or work on a project, I am way more focused because time just means more to me now, and it's more limited. Whereas like, I think before, when I kind of was just like walking around New York with my laptop running, I don't even know where I was going. I would like sit down at a coffee shop to write, but literally just be Googling like how to write a script, how to write a book, you know, like, am I a piece of shit? Like, it was just, I was preparing to work all the time rather than actually working. I don't know. I mean, I think also who I hang out with might change a little bit. Like, I was always someone that felt like I had to invite every person to my parties, and that's not a bad thing, but I don't know if I have the energy to do that as much. I love people, but I also want to like put a lot more focus into the people that I am closest with, rather than trying to have a million friends. And then career-wise, I don't know. I have these 2 writing projects I've been working on for the last few months that are not performance related, and I would like to see them through. And if my life goes in the direction of more off stage but still fulfilled creatively, cool. Mm-hmm. And if I feel like I want to do more performance again, cool. But right now, I just had a friend ask me if I want to do a show. And I said, yes, because I think I do, but I don't want to have to put on clothes past 5 p.m.
Yeah.
I really like your answer. I really like that answer.
I don't know.
That's a healthy answer. It's a true, as opposed to like, we're going to get back out there and I'm just going to like hit, and for some people that is what they want and that's totally fine too. But I think yours is very well thought out.
It makes me sad because it feels, what my therapist said recently, which I love, she's like, well, with every choice, there's grief, even when it's a positive choice, because you're always grieving the opposite, the other choice. So if I choose to write a book, I mean, that's so fucking exciting to me, but I might also have grief of not touring. Not that I can't do both of this. There's plenty of people who do all the things. I don't know that I want to be someone that does 10 things at once anymore, because for me, it's always kind of made me feel like jack of all trades, master of none. And so I really, over this last year, I've just kind of been like, okay, let me try to do one thing at a time. Like when I'm a mom, when I'm mothering, I am with my child. I am not like on my laptop. Like I want to be there. When she's being taken care of by someone else and it's my work time, I want to work. I don't want to be like shopping for dresses, like I'm trying to really like do one thing at a time. So I don't know what that means. I mean, you could ask me tomorrow and I might be like, I'm trying to sell a special,
I mean, it's just bigger honoring.
Well, I hope it's a book.
Yeah.
I really hope it's a book because you're such a talented writer.
Oh my God, you guys, this podcast is such an ego boost. Thank you so much.
Well, we just adore you. I mean, really.
Likewise.
We're coming to a close, but we've been wanting to have you on for so long because, you made such an impression on us when we first met you long time ago with your relationship advice and then just watching you grow. And I mean, it's just so amazing to see where you're at and your beautiful family. We're just so happy for you.
Oh, I just want to say to anyone listening, like the whole phrase, it's never too late, is like, could not be truer. Like if you told me when I was 27 and super depressed and planning a wedding because I thought this was my only shot to get married. I have to be married by 30, and then cut to like, when I was in that relationship with the bodybuilder, I was like, I guess I should get pregnant because I'm definitely going to be too old. And what if my shit, and again, I'm not saying that like that is going to work out exactly, but I would have never thought that at this point in my life, I would be in the relationship I'm in with the child I have living back in I don't know. It's just, like I said, like it wasn't how I maybe would have written it. But like, I'm so grateful for the edits that were made. Like it was just, it feels good. It's not perfect, but it like feels calm.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm old.
No, well, we're in spring chickens.
I'm good girl. 77 years old.
And that's the big reveal.
It's never too late.
Well, how can people find your 77-year-old ass?
My 77-year-old ass. I have an Instagram account called All Ass Bitch. No, it's my podcast is Should I Get Bangs? Please listen to it. So I'm not just talking into the dark hole of the web. And I'm on Twitter, Giulia Rozzi with the G, Instagram, Ms. Giulia Rozzi. I go through phases where I hate it and then I'll post a lot and then I'll be like, I hate posting, and then I'll post and then I won't post. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, we thank you so much. Absolutely. Go listen to her podcast, Giulia's podcast, and follow her and do all the things. This was really awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was so good. Love you.